14, God bless fantasy football. Back with you alongside Sasha Durkin, Andrew Rogers, Cam Broham. We are recording on Tuesday, the day before Waiver Wire Wednesday, and we love to spit out some names your way, especially now that playoffs are approaching. Maybe these are guys that will help you go the distance.
Absolutely. And that's kind of how the couple players that I put on here. And by the way, couple players, because there are 6 teams on a bye week this week.
And you could also say that Sasha and I are technically on bye weeks for the rest of the year because we are not making the playoffs at this point. And can you believe that? We give out advice. And you know the person that swoops in and steals every bit of our advice, and because of that, he's in first place?
Austin.
Our friend Austin. He is what, 10-2, 11-2 now?
I don't know.
Regardless.
I won't even look.
I'm going to
just
look.
Disgusted.
He is 11-2, but this is why I want to applaud Austin and maybe some of you out there too, because you took the advice we gave and you ran with it.
Mm-hmm.
And by doing so, it put you in a position to get a bye in the playoffs.
Yeah.
And if that is the case, if that's you out there, congratulations, you deserve it. However, in Austin's case, he took all of the guys I wanted to every single week, so I'll never forgive you. He took Christian Watson from me 3 weeks ago because I said, man, Christian Watson's going to start going nuts. And there he goes. Better waiver than me. I got to start looking at that when I'm giving advice to our own league.
Yeah, seriously. Well, and I would do my notes, and then after this, I'd be like, I got to go and change up some stuff.
Set things up.
By the time that I got around to it, either the players that I wanted to pick up were gone, or I forgot entirely. Last week I did not, however. And everything I did
this is funny.
Did not work out for me. The one thing that I did that did give me some points, actually almost half of my points, because I only ended up with 78.5 last week, was Cleveland's defense. Thank you very much.
Great
2 interceptions, 2 fumble recoveries, 2 touchdowns. I believe they had a punt return, and then points allowed 7 to 13 points. So
that was a great play on your part. My biggest miss this week, and if I would have, this is how it always goes. If you would have played this one player, you would be in position to make the playoffs. Because if I would have played one player, and I'll paint you the scenario, because there are a lot of what ifs in fantasy football. And it's not like I saw what the player did.
Mm-hmm.
And then if I would have played him, I would have won. That's normally what that scenario looks like. But in this case, it was the same team on Monday night, and I could put either player in. So that's who I was choosing between.
Mm-hmm.
So completely different statement here. But if I were to win, I would be tied for 6th place right now, and I would be playing the team that is tied with me.
Mm-hmm.
So no matter what, win or lose, that's the team going to the playoffs.
Right.
But because of this one move, I was sitting on my couch at 3:00 yesterday. And no, actually, I was probably sleeping at 3:00 yesterday. And then I woke up before Monday Night Football. And I was in between Rachaad White and Chris Godwin. And it was between those 2 guys. Who do I start? Godwin or White? I had White in there all week. But before the game, I switched to Godwin. And the reason I did was because I'm like, Godwin found the end zone the week before. He may have found it even 2 weeks before, too. Rachaad White was going to have to deal with Fournette coming back. I didn't really know what that timeshare would look like. So I said, all right, I'm going to ride Godwin and hope for the best. And Godwin had a good day. I think he went 6 catches, 8 catches max for 63 yards.
Yeah.
He had a good day in PPR. But it came down to that last goal line drive for the Bucs. And on 3rd and goal, Tom Brady finds Chris Godwin in the end zone. And I am jubilant, right?
Yeah.
I'm jumping up and down in my apartment.
Didn't have him in, did you?
No, then the flag pops up in the bottom corner of the screen.
Oh, okay.
Holding offense. So that touchdown gets negated. And then, no joke, one play later, pass to Rachaad White for a touchdown. And I took him out
and then
prior to the game.
Broke your
Rachaad
TV
White
you threw your shoe at it.
You know what? Rachaad White ended with 10 points. 10 points is what I needed to win that week.
Tom!
And I believe Chris Godwin ended with like 6.8. So I lost by 3, and it was devastating. I sat back and smiled because it's one of those moments where you knew that was going to happen. You knew that no matter what this came down to, it was going to bite you in the butt. And that's what it did. So I'm out of the playoffs. I've been negated. Well, that's not true. I could beat the team in 6th, which is Winers Take All in the God Bless Fantasy Football League. But I'm also down 50 points in the points for column. So unless I win 150 to 100, I'm not making the playoffs.
Yeah. You know what I did with my lineup? And I talked about this on the episode last week on Tuesday. How I typically will pick up players is if I need somebody because somebody's on a bye, injured reserve, out, whatever. I'll look at the matchup. I'm purely looking at the matchup. How does this team match up against the other team and their schematics in terms of how they're playing? And I went straight up that way all the way through my entire lineup. Didn't work out for me this week. I had Terry McLaurin on my bench, which was not great.
Not great.
Standard 16.5. He had a touchdown. I picked up Zay Jones because I told other people to pick up Zay Jones. He had 1.6 points, 16 yards. That was it. So
I was on the Zay Jones train too.
It will work out when you're looking at just straight up matchups. This week, it just didn't for me. I picked up Kyron Williams. That didn't work because actually
Cam Akers went off.
I actually like Cam Akers this week. Good segue.
Tell people why they should pick up Cam Akers.
Okay. Many people, including myself, which is why this is a good segue, thought that Kyron Williams over the last couple weeks was going to perform well again. But Akers reclaimed the Rams backfield
out of nowhere.
I mean, man, rushing 17 times for 60 yards and 2 touchdowns. Well, Kyron Williams still played a decent number of snaps. However, Akers had 14 more carries and the same amount of targets. Also, he may not be as good this week, carrying that forward. It's possible you get that same output in week 14, but the Raiders defense is giving up the less than 90 rushing yards and 7th most in fantasy points. But I will say, if this last week, week 13, was any indication of what's going to happen going forward, you've got to pick up Cam Akers now if you don't already have him on your team.
And he's actually somebody I've been stashing the last 2 weeks in numerous leagues.
We told you to do
so
3 weeks ago.
This has been something that was refreshing to see because Cam Akers was taken in the 4th or 5th round in most drafts this year. And it's about time that he finally got some production. I just don't know if this was a fluke week for Cam Akers or if this is something that we are going to see trending in the right direction. Yeah. I
really thought Kyron Williams was going to be the dude. I was wrong. I was wrong.
Somebody I like too, and it's a name that, when people came into this year, they didn't draft him high, but they still drafted him. James Cook got some usage last week and 2 weeks ago, or rather 3 weeks ago, that excites me for his future with Buffalo. Now, that's not to say that Devin Singletary still won't get the start because I believe he will, but the snap count was almost 50-50 between the two. Singletary only outsnapped him by 1. And this is James Cook, 3rd round draft pick that, like I said, when people saw the Bills draft him, they thought, oh, the Bills haven't really had a running game as of late. Singletary's good, but Singletary isn't fantastic. I'm actually kind of retracting that statement that I thought about early on this season. Singletary is very good.
Yes.
The Bills just don't run the ball enough. And that's what it boils down to. But when you look at James Cook, he's an interesting ad going forward because if the production is like this 33-32 or 30-30 snap count evenness that I'm talking about, you might find something worthwhile about holding on to James Cook. And go ahead and use your waiver on this guy because he's worth it at this point. They get a defense that didn't really do too much against teams recently.
Yeah.
especially the Bears. I'm talking about the Jets in this case. David Montgomery had a very good week there. But if you go back to week 9, the Jets completely held the Bills' run game in check.
Mm-hmm.
So because of that, I'm almost feeling an inkling of a bounce back here for this run game. The Jets have been very good, don't get me wrong, but now the game's in Buffalo. Right. And I think that has all the difference in the world. But look, Cook finally put Devin Singletary in an uncomfortable position when it comes to holding that number 1 back role. Yeah. And I just think this could be the time that you add the rookie, because who knows, maybe Devin Singletary, pulls something. Say he pulls his hamstring, and now James Cook is already to the point of RB1 numbers, opposed to, hey, he only touches the ball 2 times a game, and now you're expecting a backup running back to be that 17, 18 carry running back. It just doesn't happen all too often. But James Cook, he's worth an ad in my opinion. That was long-winded, but I got there.
Speaking of the Bills, since we're just a Bills bandwagon podcast now, I actually
choose the good team, huh?
Right? I really like Isaiah McKenzie down the stretch. He followed up a huge week 12. In week 12, he had 6 receptions, 96 yards, a touchdown. He followed that up with 5 catches for 44 yards this last week against New England. And then the overall production, granted, wasn't great. He had 44 yards, no touchdowns. That's fine. However, because as you just mentioned, they haven't been running the ball a ton. They're throwing it out in the air a lot more, it seems like. That could change. Who knows? It changes every week. Your game plan changes.
Right. And, when I say they're not running the ball as much, it really depends on the opponent.
Yes.
Because when they played New England last week, New England is a really good secondary. Mm-hmm. And when you're up in games, you're going to run the football to eat clock. And in that game, they ran the ball 27 times. Mm-hmm. But the game before that, they ran the ball 16 times.
Exactly.
So it just really depends on who they're playing.
And while this week isn't the greatest matchup against the Jets, as you just mentioned too, the Jets are on an upward trajectory. Still should be a decent flex option, but I think that you should stash him even if you're not going to start him, because in weeks 15, 16, they're playing the Dolphins and then the Bears respectively. And I don't know. I'm sorry. I know you're a Bears fan, but
it's okay.
Those
I
games
get it.
don't scare me.
We're getting a very good draft pick right now. That's all I care about. Give me Will Anderson once the NFL draft rolls around. Let's get this defense back to greatness. No, I want to mention one more thing about James Cook is his receiving ability. Mm-hmm. And he added 41 receiving yards last week, which outgained Singletary 105 to 51. So pay attention to the receiving ability of some of these secondary backs. Mm-hmm. Now, Sasha gave you a running back and a wide receiver. I gave you a running back. And now you're probably thinking, Andrew's going to throw us a tight end. But Sasha brought up a great point at the start of the show. There are a ton of bye weeks this week.
There are 6.
And she also brought up how the Cleveland Browns defense was magic for her team this week, or this past week at least. So that's what kind of had me thinking of who else I was going to provide for our listeners. Mm-hmm. And I thought, we never talk about defense. I always talk about Sunday. Yeah. When Sunday rolls around, of what defense I like and what defense I don't like. But during the waiver, I never bring up defense because defense doesn't matter. It's all matchup based, in my opinion.
Yes, you're right.
But when you see what the Browns did last week and you see what the Cowboys did last week, defense can matter a ton in a standard league. I didn't even throw in the 49ers. They had a fantastic week too. I know I'm talking 2 of those 3 defenses are always owned. But how about looking at some defenses for this week? Maybe you need one that's good matchup base. Maybe your main primary defense is on a bye and you need some type of life. Maybe you need a point like 30 points from your defense just to be able to make the playoffs, right? So I like Kansas City's defense this week. And they're playing at Denver. And the reason I like that is Russell Wilson just hasn't played good football all season long. But on top of that, he hasn't been overly great at home either. And he's been taking a lot of heat from that fan base. So they're putting a lot of pressure on him right now. But Kansas City's defense is facing Denver, who gives the 6th most fantasy points to the defensive position. It's a green matchup for me. This is something that when I analyzed everything, I looked at other teams that had good weeks too. One being the Seahawks. They're playing Carolina. I just didn't really know how to assess the Panthers all that much. Not to say that PJ Walker or I think it's Sam Darnold now. Sam Darnold had a very good week before the bye week. Not to say that he will go into Seattle and then say, oh, he has 3 picks. That could happen. Carolina gives up a ton of points to defenses too. But when I just look at the overall matchup and the team that they come with, I'm going to stick with Kansas City here. I'm going to go with the better team. I'm going to go with the better matchup, in my opinion. And there's no reason to think that Denver will move the football at a great pace against this Kansas City squad. How many touchdowns does Russell Wilson have? 8? 8 passing touchdowns.
I have that memorized because of the guy who's devoted his entire TikTok account to Russell Wilson touchdowns versus the amount of bathrooms he has.
And that's fantastic.
It's amazing.
It's a great video, a great video idea too. So there you have it. It's Kansas City. It is Isaiah McKenzie. Those kind of rhyme. James Cook and Cam Akers. Those don't rhyme.
No, they don't.
For all those grammar majors out there, those do not rhyme. But aside from that, an update on the schedule ahead. We will not be with you this weekend. And I know that in the past we teased that we would, but local sports kind of takes over here in Omaha. And Sasha will be on the road traveling to Vegas, covering Creighton. It just didn't work out this week. We're all over the place, but I'll tell you what. We will wish you all the best. And if you have any questions, shoot them into Hurrdat Sports or even tune in to Coffee and Cream in the Morning on Hail Varsity Radio. And my main man, DB, and I will get to your questions. Aside from that, the following week, that's going to be playoff week. And so what are we going to do for that? Well, Wednesday, we're there for you. If you need anything answered live, we will be recording live on Wednesday. We'll get you the exact time once we lock that down. But for now, that's what we're looking at. Here's the Waiver Wire show. And then missing this weekend. Sorry, busy local stuff. But again, find us on Hurrdat Sports or Hail Varsity Radio in the morning. And then next Wednesday, we'll be live on Hurrdat Sports. We'll see you then. God bless you, and God bless fantasy football.